I'm grateful that Reverend Carl has given me the opportunity to share a message with you again today, and I appreciate your presence and support. Thank you so much. There's a great joke that goes, how many Baptists does it take to change a light bulb? Change? Okay, I can pick on Baptists because that's how I grew up, but you can pick on your person or your group. I understand that really the only person who wants change is a baby with a wet diaper. Carl knows well about that, I'm sure. No matter what, change is hard. For some, the idea of change is very frightening. Most of us like things to be stable and predictable. We often find comfort in believing that life will be manageable or within our control. Ha ha. However, for some people, change is exciting, and they tend to initiate change. They look at a situation, they analyze how it's working or not working, then they see the potential and initiate a plan to change. My mother used to change our furniture in our house about every 2 weeks, so I get that. I came in sometimes in the middle of the night and would bang my foot against something that wasn't there a couple hours ago. One writer said, change can come in many forms in our lives. It might come forcefully, like a tidal wave, or creep along incrementally, like a glacier. It might come in the form of devastating tragedy, difficult choices, broken relationships, or even new opportunities. But even though change is often difficult, many times it's also for the best. Accomplishing anything great in life requires significant change that pushes us beyond our comfort zones. And so I'd like to break that down a little bit for us today and talk about some ways to cope with unwanted change. First, I think it's important to acknowledge that change is a constant companion on our journey through life, whether it hits us like a hurricane or tiptoes in like a whisper. Change shapes our experiences and our character. Consider the tidal wave of change, the sudden, overwhelming force that crashes down and swamps us. It can be terrifying, leaving us gasping for breath as we struggle to find our footing. When I was young, we used to go to the beach for family vacations, and we loved to swim and play in the water, and sometimes the waves would come out of nowhere and crash down on us and drive us downward, twisting and turning us while we struggled to hold our breath and get our heads above water. It was unexpected. It was scary, and it was often life-threatening. Change can also feel like a glacier, creeping silently over time. Its gradual advance may seem inconspicuous or barely recognizable, but it reshapes the landscape with unwavering persistence. Incremental changes, small decisions, daily habits, and subtle shifts accumulate into profound transformation. And like the glacier, they carve out new paths and erode old patterns. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I remember when I played football in high school and had a full head of hair. And I'm confronted with having to acknowledge the age-related baldness and additional weight that's crept up on me over time. As a 60-year-old man, I'm not the same person I was. And I've experienced a lot of incremental and often unwanted changes over time. Many of us have experienced change through devastating tragedy, which often strikes like lightning, leaving us shattered and raw. Loss, heartache, health concerns, and unexpected diagnosis, and grief pierce our hearts and our souls, altering and changing the very fabric of who we are. We're also affected and changed by difficult choices, not only our choices, but the choices made by others. These are the crossroads where we weigh options, each path diverging toward unknown destinations that often change and define our future. We're faced with having to make or respond to choices which change our direction in life. We often experience change due to broken relationships, the frayed threads that once wove our hearts together, leave us vulnerable and often untethered. We find that we're no longer connected to people who may have been close to us during a particular season of our lives, or perhaps we've been wounded by someone and had to establish healthy boundaries for our emotional or physical health, and now the relationship is broken. We can experience emotional distress, and it can be very difficult to know how to navigate through this type of change. Change is scary because it creates chaos, ambiguity, and uncertainty. When we aren't sure what's on the other side, our brains take us to survival mode, and we engage in fight or flight reactions, feel ungrounded or insecure. Deepak Chopra said, "All great changes are preceded by chaos." I'm sure we can relate to that. I recently had to learn this lesson the hard way. This past February, I arrived at work early on a Tuesday morning and was invited by email to meet with my supervisor at our corporate office. It was an unusual request, and I had an immediate uneasy feeling. When I arrived, I was met by the human resource director and my supervisor, and after a few uncomfortable minutes of "good mornings, how are you?" they informed me that my position was being eliminated due to financial constraints. Within 15 minutes, my life was changed forever. I had never been laid off before. I was in shock and immediately experienced several overwhelming feelings. Since I'm a chaplain and a spiritual counselor, I'm used to listening to people who are going through transition, loss, and struggling with grief. And my mind went outside of my mind to analyze myself as I was listening to them. I love that it's raining right now. An unexpected storm in life. I love that. So I said to myself, "Oh, look, here's shock and denial." And then I thought, shut up, listen to what they're saying. So as I went through this conversation, my head was spinning as I became aware of my feelings of anger and frustration, helplessness, and even some bargaining as I asked if there was any other way we could work it out. I finally went to resignation. I just gave up. And I said to myself, look, this is happening, and you're going to be okay. Just give into this moment and accept that this is out of your control. It's not the end of the world. You're going to be okay. So some of my biggest concerns were for my wife, Jan, and our family, of course, as well as how my team and the patients and family members that I was caring for would respond. One of the challenges about unwanted change is that when something changes for one person, it can often have huge ripple effects for those we're in relationship with too. For me, what seemed stable and secure was now a huge storm of chaos. And we had to take a lot of time to process our feelings before creating or even thinking about a plan to move forward. And so how do we respond to people or circumstances that are out of our control? I think we can all agree that the conditions of life are always changing, usually unpredictable, and a sense of control is really an illusion. Our own thoughts and emotions are always changing too, and it's hard to find balance or equilibrium and stability when things are constantly in flux. One of the best ways of coping with change is through awareness and mindfulness. Being awake, alert, and in tune with yourself helps to manage the chaos of life. Awareness is like the sky. It's just here, always present, always open, inherently calm and peaceful, even when we experience storms that get in our way of seeing the open sky. Practicing mindfulness is the how to shift from being lost in the clouds to resting in the open sky, the open space of the sky of awareness. Experiencing denial, shock, fear, anxiety, and insecurity is natural. It's part of our human response to unwanted change. but those feelings can leave us in a fog. Notice your thoughts and feelings. Acknowledge that they are there. Being aware and validating your feelings is a part of the process. Ask constructive questions like, is this feeling helpful for me? Or can I choose to respond in another way? Open dialogue and inquiry can help us navigate through uncertainty and develop innovative solutions. Secondly, be willing to accept what has happened. Acceptance can help. While I was listening to my supervisor, there's no way I could shift into acceptance in that devastating moment. Denial is typically our first response because our minds are trying to protect us from danger. For me, it took a lot of energy, thoughtfulness, and time. Not only talking with Jan, but several trusted friends and family members to kind of process my feelings. I needed to experience compassion, empathy, understanding, and support in a safe space to begin the healing process toward acceptance. Like most of us, our work is deeply connected to our identity as well as our financial stability. I felt rejected, confused, and ungrounded for a long time, and often felt like I was experiencing emotional whack-a-mole, that old game where things were popping up and you're just hammering out. That's crazy. But I knew I couldn't stay planted in my anger, depression, and sadness. I wanted to find freedom in release as I gradually let go of the pain. I began to embrace the change and realize that this unwanted event could be an opportunity for growth and transformation as I accepted this new reality. Another way to cope with change is to rely on your ability to adapt and improvise. I'm a musician, and for those who enjoy music, we know that timing is everything. I want to show you a picture. There's a story I'd like to share about the great jazz trumpeter Wynton Marsalis. One night he was at a small nightclub in New York, and he was playing this very soulful and moving ballad, I Don't Stand a Ghost of a Chance with You. At the song's most heart-rendering point, a cell phone chirped to life, fully wrecking the moment. This rude interruption had the potential to kill the mood and ruin the concert. But after a few seconds, Marsalis did something amazing. Without missing a beat, he picked up the tune of the cell phone's ring and incorporated it into the song that he was playing. I love that. He performed variations on it, blending it with what he'd planned to play, and then drew the whole ballad back to the original theme. The stunning result brought down the house, and I see you're smiling because it's pretty amazing. Wynton Marsalis transformed a rude interruption into a beautiful moment of musical genius. He didn't allow an unexpected disruption to silence him. Instead, he adapted and improvised. That's what great jazz musicians do. They're able to navigate through the changes and incorporate them into the very fabric of their music. I loved what Stephen played for us today, original and familiar music, based on a theme with variations on the tune, allowing us to experience all the emotions of the songs and the instruments. And as we sang our hymn, Susan would explore variations as she played the piano, accentuating the melody with slight flourishes to make the songs a little more connective and interesting for us. And you do that for us as well, Nick, and all of our musicians. Thank you so much. We all face unexpected interruptions in life, but we can choose how we want to respond. We can adapt, improvise, and keep playing through the changes. When coping with crisis or unwanted change, it's important to connect to and cultivate your inner strengths. I love what Scarlett shared with us during our meditation. It's important to practice self-compassion and self-care during times of crisis. Take a shower, shave, eat well, and brush your teeth. It's a gift you give to yourself and to others. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta brush my teeth today. I'm not going to work, but I still Still want to shave, yeah. And spend time doing things you love. Exercise, spend time outdoors, eat healthy foods, drink hot tea, or enjoy hanging out with your fur babies, your friends, and your family. Do things that will keep you grounded. Establish a routine and try to create a day-to-day schedule that provides comfort and consistency. Remember that you are resilient. Be patient, kind, and gentle with yourself. You've overcome challenges in the past with courage, and you can navigate through this season of change too. Lean into your family, friends, a trusted therapist, and the community for support. And explore spiritual or faith practices that give you strength to keep you moving forward. While I was unemployed, I took time to rest, to read, study, to pray and meditate. I listened to podcasts, and I kind of reconnected to myself. I've often put the needs of mine on the back burner, and having the time to examine why I did that was very informative and helpful. I also started looking at my identity. Who am I now? What else can I do that would bring meaning and purpose to my life? I started applying for jobs and going to interviews, which was very scary at first. And I slowly found a new confidence that was previously crushed by losing my former position. I started seeing this time as a gift, time to work on me and to dream a little bit about the future. Eventually, I was offered and accepted a new position as the spiritual care coordinator with a retirement community in Timonium, north of Baltimore. And it's a great fit for me. It reminds me that there is life after loss. Someone said, "How do you like to drive to Baltimore?" And I said, I love to drive. I just hate to stop. It's the stop and go that gets me. But that's that patience. So sometimes in the morning, I use that to center, to listen to things, to be quiet for a while. And then as I'm leaving, I use that time to release, to let go of the day, and it helps. So I can change how I see my commute too. During times of crisis and unwanted change, we can often feel lonely or isolate ourselves or withdraw. So in allowing others to care for us, that can also be very helpful. Some of the greatest gifts we receive are the gifts offered by others. Through our loving relationships, we can offer consolation and comfort, especially in moments of crisis, when we say, "Don't be afraid. I know what you are living, and I'm living it with you. You are not alone." I'm so grateful for those who reached out to me and offered support. Unexpected interruptions might change the original melody. By the way, I need to let Winton go here. There we go. Unexpected interruptions might change the original melody and song of our lives, but it can also serve as a way for us to make even better, more interesting music. We may have to improvise to create a new variation on a theme, but the theme of our life will continue. Music is about structure and freedom, order and chaos, beautifully interwoven with passages of sound and silence, tension and release. And sometimes our lives are like that too. Being an excellent musician isn't just about having great technique. It's about adding that human emotion of that unique player or singer into the music. Just like life, it isn't about doing all the right things or attempting to control our circumstances. It's about playing through the change, adapting, remaining open and going with the flow, living in the moment, and being willing to even incorporate those things that cannot be controlled. Those seemingly disastrous interruptions can then be seen as something that just adds interest and new perspective to life. I love this proverb. There we go. You cannot discover oceans unless you have the courage to leave the shore. New opportunities beckon like uncharted islands on the horizon. They invite us to sail beyond the safe harbor, to explore realms where comfort zones dissolve. These opportunities may arrive disguised as risks, but they carry the promise of growth. To seize them, we must embrace change, the winds in our sails, and navigate toward uncharted shores. So as we journey through life, let us welcome change as both companion and catalyst. It shapes us, challenges us, and propels us toward greatness, whether it arrives as a tidal wave or a glacier, as tragedy or opportunity. Change invites us to evolve, to become more than we ever imagined. Something else to consider: make a plan and try to anticipate change. Because I serve in a retirement community and have been a hospice chaplain, I've had discussions with folks who experience regret and frustration because they didn't plan for their future or didn't anticipate that change was on the horizon. Their spouse died suddenly, or they experienced a major physical decline, and their choices were now more limited. Others had a sense that things were changing for them. They were struggling to manage their homes or their finances, and they made conscious decisions about how they'd like to live out their final days. And so when possible, try to plan for the eventual changes that you might experience in order to ease the suffering of unwanted change and transition. Finally, I'd like to ask you to look at your program on the first page for the poem by Stanley Kunitz entitled "The Layers." He wrote this poem when he was 73 years old, and he died when he was 100. I'll read it aloud, and you're invited to take a few moments to meditate and reflect on any words or phrases that might connect to you. And then we'll have a moment of silence. The layers. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was, though some principle of being abides, from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind, as I am compelled to look, before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites, over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Oh, I have made myself a tribe out of my true affections, and my tribe is scattered. How shall the heart be reconciled to its feast of losses? In a rising wind, the manic dust of my friends, those who fell along the way, bitterly stings my face. Yet I turn, exalting somewhat, with my will intact to go wherever I need to go, and every stone on the road precious to me. In my darkest night, when the moon was covered, and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus-clouded voice directed me, live in the layers, not on the litter. Though I lack the art to decipher it, no doubt the next chapter in my book of transformations is already written. I am not done with my changes. I invite you to also take that poem home, maybe spend time in reflection. And so my hope for you is that you may be well,